This is Karl talking management for the Globe and Mail. Today I'm delighted to have with us Ron Ashkenas, who's the managing partner of Robert Schaefer & Associates, a leading management consulting firm out of Connecticut. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning, Karl.
One of your latest book is called Simply Effective, and it's focusing on simplicity. Why do managers have got to think about simplicity in this particular time in history?
Well, first of all, before I answer the question, let me just say that most managers don't wake up in the morning and think, how can I make my organization more complex, more convoluted, more difficult to operate?
One hopes not.
One hopes not. So when we think about simplicity and what they have to do, it's because there are a lot of environmental forces that are creating complexity. Regulatory forces, competitive forces, technology that's changing. The whole business environment is very complex. And those, in some ways, you just have to deal with. But in addition to that, there's a huge amount of complexity that is self-generated, and that's the complexity that I'm asking managers to deal with in this book. And the reason why it's so important now is we've been through a recessionary period, and we're still going through it, and much of it was caused by undue complexity. If you think of the financial institutions, the banks, the complex products that even Warren Buffett said he couldn't understand, and most managers couldn't understand and figure out what were the risk parameters and what was really going on. Now, fortunately, the Canadian banks avoided much of this through their sort of conservatism and being much more simple and straightforward in their product offerings. The American banks and banks around the world did not. That complexity got in the way. The second form of complexity was all the risk structures. It was very difficult to know actually what was going on. So the financial numbers didn't connect, and many managers right up until the last moment didn't know that their institutions were getting into trouble. So we've created complexity that had huge economic impacts, and managers need to be aware of that and need to really guard against that kind of complexity. So that's self-generated complexity. In addition, all of us are experiencing on a day-to-day basis just the challenges of a very fast-paced environment with the emails and internet and all of the information flow that's coming at us in a 24/7 way. On top of that, we've got organizations with convoluted decision-making, difficult structures, matrix organizations, globalization. It gets very hard to manage. And unless managers make an intentional effort to say, how do we simplify? How do we figure out what are the right decision rights and decision structures? We're going to get people in trouble. And that's what this book is about. We want managers to have simplicity and simplification as a core managerial competence, something that they're always driving for.
How does a manager go about doing that?
Well, there are a number of ways. Number one is, first of all, is to do some diagnosis, both in the organization. Where are we getting convoluted, overly complex? Where do we have too many levels, layers, decision structures, committees, matrices, etc.? So do that on a diagnostic level. Also look at products. For example, what's the product portfolio? We tend to add products and services, we never subtract from them. And look at processes. But the other area that managers can look at is looking in the mirror. Look at themselves. What do they do to cause complexity on a day-to-day basis? Am I giving assignments in a way that creates confusion rather than simplification? Am I making presentations that have hundreds and hundreds of pages of decks and slides, but it's not clear what the real point is? Am I having meetings where people are not real clear why we're there, what's the decision, what's going to be the outcome of that meeting? Every manager does things like that. You need to look in the mirror, think about what am I doing myself, get a group of people around you to give you feedback on those things, and try to simplify your own life and your own way of working.
This has been Karl talking management. Today I've been delighted to speak to Ron Ashkenas, who's the managing partner of Robert H. Schaefer & Associates, one of the leading management consulting firms in the world.